As anime fans, we all know that the medium is full of inspirational stories. A lot of the timeless classics and the perpetual favourites all involve one of the most classic storyline routes: the underdog story. A lot of our beloved heroes and protagonists go through one hell of a challenge, and the journey to get to being the strongest is a long and treacherous path. Everyone takes different routes to get there. We have stuff where a protagonist goes from a weakling to the most powerful being in the universe throughout the course of a season or multiple ones. Then we have the one that's becoming more and more common, where the protagonist gets some overpowered goods and practically becomes an in-universe god in the span of an episode or two. Regardless, here are the main top characters that embody the saying, zero to hero. We'll be changing things up a little bit, and we're featuring 7 characters this time, not doing it in a countdown format. Oh, and before we get started, I'd like to say that nothing would make me more happier than to see this channel grow and have a lot more subscribers as time goes by. So with that, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're always looking to shake things up here, and I've got something very big prepared for our next milestone. Just be ready for it. One last thing, spoilers are going to come out of this list, so you have been warned. Now, when I think about a guy who turns from loser to overpowered in just one night, isekai leads come to mind, with one of the most notorious examples of this in modern anime kicking things off, Hajime Nagumo. There's really not much to explain for Hajime, especially if you're someone who watched Ari Fioretta. I mean, the title of the show literally has the subtitle, From Commonplace to the World's Strongest. What happens when an isekai loser gets thrown into the abyss and into certain death? Well, desperation can be one hell of a motivator, and with nothing to lose and the fire of vengeance keeping him going, Hajime manages to fight his way out of the labyrinth a much more powerful person than before. In the span of a couple of episodes, he's pretty much become the most overpowered character in the Ari Fioretta universe. He did have to go down and dirty though, but the challenges inside the labyrinth that had him on death's door several times were the last tangible hurdles for him. Boasting an unmatched arsenal, incredible physical skills, and a harem of humans and monster girls that would put Naofumi to shame, Hajime comes out virtually a god. Told you the power to transmute is one of the most broken ones when used to its full potential. Let's continue with a shonen hero for a change. How about Suna from Hitman Reborn? Started off a useless kid who couldn't talk to girls to save his life, and in the end, a badass mafia boss of the Vongola, and all it took was a journey started by his meeting with Reborn. The cool part about Suna is that his journey to badass is something that gets spread out throughout the series run. It's not as blatant and in your face as a lot of shonen manga heroes' journeys to go from underdog to the strongest being in the universe, but it is there. We know what the dying will bullets do to him, but I actually find more weight in his character growth in the daily life segments. You see, Suna's development is a joy to watch. We were given those developments in subtle doses, and eventually, he overcomes his shell and becomes the best ally you can have in times of difficulty. Just look at the feats of bravery that he's done without the need for bullets. As Mafia Boss, he's also an incredible character that blows pretty much everyone out of the water by the time the series is done. He's not the last we'll see of shonen manga leads on this list, so stay tuned. Speaking of shonen heroes, I think of Parasite's Shinichi. Yeah, Shinichi is not a shonen hero. Parasite's actually a seinen title from way back, but still, the point stands that he's a success story of someone starting off weak and then becoming strong. Human-monster fusions are some of the most powerful beings in anime, especially when the two beings maintain their individual wills and work together. Just ask this guy. He goes from standard teenager to parasite nightmare through his fated meeting with Migi. Who knew that a human and a parasite working together would be the crux to turning the tides of the war against these aliens? The two work together and single-handedly go through a gauntlet of some of the toughest aliens in the enemy side. In turn, we get some of the best fight scenes that the series has to offer, from many school fights to the final one against Goto. It's a perfect example of characters starting out with teeth-clenched teamwork and a general low standing on the power level scale, and evolving into becoming one of the strongest forces in the series, not just physically, but mentally as well. However, it's the shared will and heart that the two share which I'd consider the most powerful asset that they have. Caught in a similar scenario to Hajime, we have Rimuru Tempest. Reincarnated as a slime, he goes through the same trials as the previous isekai hero, but instead of transmutation powers, he gets the ability to assimilate with other creatures that he eats. So what we have here is pretty much a super version of Kirby, and you can see where we're going with this, right? All your powers combined in the form of the most powerful slime in the universe. Other isekai leads just stand no chance. Let me ask, what's your answer to an infinitely scaling slime god? The future is limitless for Rimuru. The amazing part of it is that Rimuru wasn't even aware of his power at first. Just look at his list of abilities on the wiki and add on the fact that he's pretty much immortal, and we have one of the most dramatic zero to hero stories out there. Is there anybody that embodies the concept of going from weakling to badass like Kaneki does? Starting off as a meek and weak student, his life takes a huge turn when he gets transformed into a ghoul. Now, things won't come easy, and he refuses to accept his new identity for quite a while. However, when push comes to shove, he finally accepts his power and completely destroys Jason in one of the most badass moments in Season 1. Eventually, he becomes some sort of mythological figure, and by the end of the series, it simply emphasizes how big of a nightmare he's become. The thing about Kaneki is that instead of becoming a straight-up heroic badass, he becomes more of an anti-hero as he grows stronger, kind of like Hajime from much earlier. How can we not have Naruto in the list? His entire series is built and premised on the ostracized kid dreaming big and going from bumbling idiot to one of the legendary figures responsible for the village's legacy going forward. What makes Naruto the series such a joy to watch is that it's a slow, long, and tough journey to see the underdog create bonds, change people, and find strength both physically and emotionally. Some may argue that the specific road to become the celebrated hero of the village concluded with the battle with Pain, but Naruto still went on and got some. At the end of it all, we have one of the greatest leaders that Konoha's ever seen, strong enough with his fighting abilities and the uncanny ability to turn the edgiest people good with the classic talk no jutsu. Yep, it seems that Naruto is just the person tailor-made for a list like this. So how do you top off the list of zero to hero stories? By transcending humanity, such is the case with who we're capping this list off with, Madoka. For a series called Madoka Magica, our main character sure spends 90% of the series being useless. That's not exactly an understatement, and her uselessness actually ties into the plot and how it develops very nicely. I could probably do a long essay on the genius of the series, but let's focus on the main character for now. You see that magical girl attire she rocks in the opening? Nowhere to be seen in all but the last episode of the show. Madoka herself spends the entire series crying, moping, and questioning the intricacies and nature of life and all of those things. Then, the last episode comes, and Madoka comes back with a vengeance, making her wish she transcends all human boundaries and ascends to a higher plane of existence. Embodying the concept of fighting witches, Madoka becomes God. Quite literally, rewriting the world's not even the biggest of her feats, as she goes back and ahead in time to purify witches and changing the very laws of the world. Now that's a big swing in power if you ask me. That more or less wraps up this list. When making this list, I decided to add some more qualifiers which could explain why some characters didn't make it to the list. Backstory weakness disqualifies characters, so no Saitama despite the huge leap in power. Characters holding back or being misevaluated also get disqualified from the list, so sorry Ayato Amagiri and Tatsuya Shiba, although Tatsuya himself is arguable. With those in mind, do you think anyone else could have qualified for this list? What do you think of me using this new looser format instead of doing it in a countdown form? Let your voices be heard and start some discussions on the comment section. For now, that's got to do it, and I hope to see you next time in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that sweet bell button so you can be the first in line next time.